Okay, hi guys. It's take two. So I was talking about how we did the Tantra for Empaths on Wednesday night, and I got to invite my dear friend Kelle Sparta to come and teach with me in DC. And we had this incredible class where we started giving people tools for when you feel too much, for when there's a lot of energy in the room, when there's a lot of things happening inside of your body. And one of the things that we talked about was selfishness. And Kelle has, here comes Kelle. She has such a great view. I said, let's do a Facebook Live and bring her on. And so that's what this is all about. And there really is an art to being selfish. And so that's what we'd like to share with you this morning. Okay. Kelle, it said you declined. So let's try again. Okay, add. And I think if you say yes, then it will add you and we can do our split screen. There we go. Hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
So this is Kelle Sparta, everyone. And she has some really fantastic, terrific ideas and tools about being selfish. And so Kelle and I met in Boston a few years ago, and we did a couple of energy classes, and we just found that we have so much in common. And one of those things is feeling a lot. And so I'm going to let Kelle introduce herself, and then Kelle share what is the art of being selfish.
Hi, guys. I'm Kelle Sparta. I'm a transformational shaman. I call myself the spirit doctor. And what I do is I work with people who have had challenged childhoods where they didn't get their needs met or where they felt like they were in danger or unsafe in some way, and help them to find the willingness to be happy and to feel loved and to have success in their lives and to be able to receive that and take that in and feel worthy of it. And this is one of the things that Monique and I were talking about at this class on Wednesday. And I just have to take a minute and say, Monique, I came home that night going, oh my God, our stuff blended so perfectly. It was like we each had half of each other's stuff, and it just went smush so beautifully. So anyway, I'm just having a moment. I'm having a love fest moment. But we started talking about selfishness, and we started talking about how, a lot of us have been trained that the worst thing you could possibly be in life is selfish. And that therefore we're not allowed to actually want anything or have anything in our lives that's good unless everyone else has something first. And it's like we have to sacrifice ourselves on the altar of other people's happiness, right? And it's just this horrible way to live, honestly, because you're self-sacrificing all the time, and therefore you don't exist in your own life. And so one of the things that we were talking about was the concept of selfishness, and the idea that what I said to everybody was, look, you have been in service to everyone else your entire life. You have put everyone else first your entire life. You have earned the right to be selfish. And in fact, there is absolutely no way you could ever be that selfish person that you're afraid of being. Because inherently, if you're someone who has been self-sacrificing, you are a loving, caring individual who thinks of others first at all times. And to force yourself to think of yourself first is an effort. And so therefore, you're never going to be that person that you're afraid of becoming. You are too loving and too open and too caring and too conscious of other people's needs and feelings for that to ever happen. So what I encourage you to do is to be as selfish as you can possibly be. Be just the most selfish you could ever possibly imagine being, and you will be almost selfish enough because of your natural tendencies that you've been brought up with. And it's really, that's what it's about, is just being as selfish as humanly possible so that you can be almost selfish enough to really actually take care of yourself in your own life.
because we were talking about the difference from giving from that place of selflessness is that then you're reaching into the bottom of the barrel of what you have to offer. And so then you're giving with tiredness, exhaustion, resentment. Like there's still a cost, even if it's just that you want to be appreciated. It can't come from you for free unless you're filled up and you're resourced. So that's the art of being selfish, is like really like what Kelle said. I loved it so much that we have permission to be as selfish as we possibly can, because there's still so much guilt in my own life as I started putting myself first. And I'm like, oh no, everyone else is going to suffer. And I really felt that for such a long time. And I realized the more that I actually take care of me, then the more resources and the more ability I have to love and be that human being that I love, that I enjoy being and offering to everyone else. And the less that I actually take time or put myself first, then the less I actually have to give to others, and the more resentful I am, and the more I need to hide afterwards.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I talked to some people at the event, and there's this sense of, oh, well, I do take what I need when I need it. And it's like, yeah, but, and this is the other piece that I talk to people about all the time, is that what happens is that we wait until we're desperate to ask for what we need. And then we're not actually asking, we're demanding, because we are desperate. Yeah. And there's no option for the other person to say no because we're desperate. And so it's actually worse to wait until you're at that stage, because now you're in the place where you have to manipulate someone else to get them to give you what you want, because you don't have the option for them to say no. Whereas if you practice what I call ask early, ask often, even if you don't need it, but you just might want it, to ask early and ask often, so that you novel concept, right? So, but yeah, so if you ask early and you ask often, then you're always getting a little bit here and there, right? And you're always refilling your cup, right? So, you can either give from your emptiness or you can give from your overflow. And most of us are giving from our emptiness. And the challenge with giving from your emptiness is, one, you have less to give, obviously, because you're depleting your own inner resources to do it. And yeah, Randall says he's seen that play out. And the other thing that's happening is that you're resentful of the giving. Yep. And you get resentful of the giving because you are giving away your own resources, your own inner resources, instead of the extra overflow that you have from having collected when you needed it, or even when you didn't need it, when you just wanted it, right? So if you make sure your internal tank is always topped up, then there's no resentment for giving for like the first half of it. In fact, you're giving out of joy, and you're giving out of expansiveness and abundance. And you're like, yes, let me give to you. This is amazing. I love this. But when you start to get down below that 50%, you start to go, okay, here you go. Yeah, you can have a little bit.
I want to love you.
I'm going to be nice. That's right. I don't want to say no and hurt your feelings. So, okay. And then when you start to give from below 25%, you're like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll stretch to make that happen for you. Right. And then you end up down at like the 5 and 10% level, or even at negative level. And now you do something ridiculous, right? I mean, I used to do things that were completely ridiculous when I got that low. I would like walk past a line of people and sit my ass down at an empty seat in a restaurant without having been seated. I mean, ridiculous things, because I was so below my ability to cope, because I'd given away so much that I just had to take something back for me. And that's when we get unreasonable, because we're so empty, we have no choice but to refill. And then we get to be obnoxious. And so,
and it gets pretty messy too.
The drama. Oh my God, the drama.
Because
It's
you have to,
crazy.
like, what my experience has been is when you get that low and you put everybody else first for so long, then you don't have any of those reserves. And so then you have to create a situation where you can prove, oh well, you have to take care of me. So whether your body gets sick, whether there's trauma in your life, whether there's chaos, like something has to be created so that then there's actually
Yeah,
time and attention placed on you. Where if you take the time and you actually bring the attention back to yourself instead of focusing it outward, that messiness doesn't happen.
right. Exactly. And it's just a matter of it's a matter of taking time to realize what it is that you want and need in the first place. And you were talking about that in the workshop on Wednesday.
Well,
You know,
I can share that tip, and then you be thinking of a tip you can share too with our viewers. So
okay.
here's one of the few first things that I learned, or that I actually started practicing, because I realized I actually had no idea what I wanted. I had lovers, I had people around me all the time saying, Monique, I want to give to you. What do you want? And I'm like, maybe you can sit in front of me, or maybe you let me massage your shoulders, or it was always something to do to someone else. Like I just had no concept of anything that I wanted myself. And so I realized that that was a problem because all these people around me are like, no, 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 you're in the center. Like it's your turn. Get it. And I felt so weird being given two. So I started this practice of just getting up in the morning. And at the beginning, I started with 5 minutes. Now I'm up to 30 minutes a day. And I just sit, and I sit with one part of my body. And you can do a whole scan, like from top to bottom of your body, or just pick one part. And I'll just close my eyes, and I'll often start with my heart because it's easy for me to access my heart. But you can use your throat, your belly, your genitals. Like you pick a part and just start. And I'll close my eyes and I'll say, heart, what do you want? And like right now, then my heart's like, I just want to appreciate Kelly because I love her so much. And I want Kelly to say how much fun she had. Like it lit me up when she was talking about how easily our things flowed together. And like, it's so easy for my heart to talk to me now. But when I started, then my heart's like, fuck you. Now you're finally talking to me. And so there was nothing for 2 weeks. So if you start and your body isn't talking and there's just silence, just know that your body's been desperate for you to listen. It's been desperate for you to actually take time and space for yourself. So it might take a little bit of time for it to trust that you're really listening. So just keep at it. And even if it's just 5 minutes a day, start listening and your body will eventually start telling you. And I learned one of my favorite things in the whole world is to have my breast massaged, like in a non-sexual manner. And so now when people put me in the middle, I'm like, can you just spend a half an hour on my breast and just do little circles? And like my body feels so nourished, and that lasts for 2 weeks at least of just feeling so loved. But I never knew. And so it's these spaces of finding out what are those pieces that when you don't need, when you're actually taking time to not look out for anyone else, what is it that your body says, oh, okay, everyone else is taken care of. I feel safe inside of me. So this is what I actually want. Is it okay to ask? And then the more that you do start asking and you start letting your body feel that trust, the more it will let you know long before you walk into that restaurant and have to sit down, or you're exhausted, or or you get sick, or whatever those pieces are that your body says, all right, now you have to listen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a similar sort of experience where when I first started to get into the idea of taking care of myself, I realized that I had been, this was years ago before I was married, I had been having sex with people when I just needed to be touched and cuddled.
Yeah.
And that I was like, oh, I don't have to have sex to do that. I just need to find somebody to touch and cuddle me. and and I sought out the cuddle parties at that time and was doing stuff like that. And so the other end of this, because there's listening to your body, but then there's also reopening your ability to dream,
Mm-hmm.
because we lose the ability to dream as we become adults. We get shackled down with the idea of being responsible and realistic and structured and what can I have and what can I not have, and right. And so what I generally have people do is I say, look, just sit down and write a list of 100 things that you want to be, do, or have.
I
And
love that.
yeah, well, it's so funny because most people get to maybe 10, 15, sometimes, if you're really good, you get to like 25 or 30, and then they go, I got nothing. And then it's like, okay, now how do you fill out the rest, right? And the idea isn't that it's a bucket list that you kill and you like check off things. The idea is that it's an always full font of opportunity. So every time you check something off, you add something back on, right? And so there's this ongoing process. So it could be I want to learn how to play piano like Billy Joel, or it could be I want to go into space. That one's been on my list since 1997. Or one of the things on my list is I want to have a substantive conversation on the subject of spirituality with the Dalai Lama. That's one of the things that's been on my list also since 1997. So, it's just, and I intend to make it happen. Everything on my list is, yep, but it doesn't have to be quote unquote realistic. When I put the go into space on my list in 97, there was nobody going into space that wasn't military. And I have contacts and I'm blind as a bat without my glasses. And so there was no going into space without that, right? But, soon there's going to be there are actually commercially available flights into space now in Russia. I've done the research because that's half the fun, right? Is how do I make my dreams happen, right? So, but it's about practicing learning how to dream again because we don't dream. And you realize when you start to do this that you're like, well, I want to see Captain Marvel, or and it's like these teeny tiny little things. It's like, oh, that's a very small dream. How can I
Well,
make my dream bigger?
I can share that Kelly actually helped me with this a few years ago, and we were teaching with our friend in Boston, and they both asked me, like, you guys were holding your magic wand, or I don't remember how it came up, but you're just like, what do you want more than anything, Monique? And like when I really asked myself, it was, I want to marry Peter. And at that time, Peter was so far, like, I will never get married. It's not on my list. Like, don't ever ask me. And so I had all this guilt and shame immediately come up. And they're like, no, like, really, what is it? And so when I shared that with them, then instead of any, like, all my other friends are like, no, you can't even imagine that. Then there was all this excitement. And Kelly's like, I have a wedding dress in my closet that we can alter for you and we can get bridesmaids. And like, it was the first moment that I actually felt like it was okay to dream that. And a year later, Peter and I did have our own ceremony. It just looked completely different than the weddings that are out there. But that never could have happened had I not opened up my eyes and in that moment said, this is what I want. And that year, like, that was the biggest thing that anytime I felt into, what do I want? I want to marry this human and like spend the rest of my life with him. And that was, you really helped me with that, Kelly. Thank you.
I had no idea. Thank you for sharing that. I remember the conversation now that you mentioned it, but I didn't realize the import that it had at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, a year
So yeah,
later it
I'm the
happened,
yes
honey.
girl. I tell people I'm the yes girl. It's like, you want something, come tell me and I'll tell you yes. I love to be the cheerleader and the how to make it happen because I always have a creative solution.
Well, in September, then Kelly and I are going to get back together. We will post it soon, and we're going to do a workshop called The Armory the Heart. And so that's spaces that you can actually get in touch with what does your heart want and being able to reparent and relove yourself. And so to really dive into a lot of the things that we talked about today and just undefending yourself so that you can actually walk through the world with this open heart that most of us long for. So
Yeah,
I'm super excited
I'm
for that,
excited.
honey. And how do people
Yeah, me
find
too.
you? Like if my viewers are on here looking at you and they're like, ooh, who's this woman? I want to know more. How do they find you, Kelly?
So you can see my name at the top of the screen there, I think. Can you?
Yeah. Or
Does
they
it say
will
that, or is it just
when
on my side?
when we save this and put it on, they'll definitely be
Okay.
able to see.
All right. So yeah, it's my name, KelleSparta.com. So it's Kelly with an E, Kelle, Sparta, like the Greek city-state.com. And if you want, I've also got a podcast, and Monique and Peter are both going to be on the podcast coming up soon. And the podcast is SpiritSherpaPodcast.com.
I
So,
love
or
that.
Spirit Sherpa, if you're on a podcast provider, you can search for Spirit Sherpa anywhere, and find it that way. So Randall says he also wants to learn how to listen to your heart.
So maybe
So
that will
we
be
can
our next
probably,
topic.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good one to talk about.
Yeah, Randall, it will once I stop this, and then I save it. So it will be on my wall, and it will be on Everyday Tantra. And because those of you that
Yeah,
follow
and I'm
along
gonna
know I do these videos on
I'll hit a
Everyday
little,
Tantra.
and I just hearted so that you can now find me in the hearts too. So
It's my hope to bring Kelly back once a month, and we'll talk about these kind of topics because Kelly and I have a similar foundation, but we also seem to come at it from mirror image effects. And so when we both are able to talk, then we're able to give you all of these full circle of tools and skills to be able to reparent yourself, love yourself, and like walk through the world with a more solid base, especially if you're an empath or a highly sensitive being or someone that's cared for others your whole life. And so I'm super excited to start doing that with you, Kelly.
I am too. I'm so excited.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to the next edition. Love you, Kelly.
I love you too, Monique.
I love all of you, and you have permission to be selfish. Go do it. Bye, love.
Go be selfish. All right. Bye, guys.